Certainly low rates, some of that monetary stimulus that you saw following COVID helped, right?
안녕하세요. 매일매일 운동하기를 실천하고 있는 동탄 왕코입니다. 오늘은 6월 20일 월요일이죠. 네. 너무 덥습니다. 날씨가 아주 여름이 됐어요. 지금 선풍기 한 대를 틀어놓고 있긴 한데 이 선풍기가 있어도 많이 덥네요. 그리고 주말간 비트코인이 엄청 떨어졌다가 다시 살짝 반등을 했습니다. 일단 저는 비트코인 같은 그 코인류는 항상 영원으로 갈 거라는 걸로 생각을 하고 있기 때문에 떨어지는 거야. 언젠가 떨어지겠죠. 그리고 주식 또 떨어지고 있죠. 엄청 많이. 그리고 지금 주식이 계속 그 물가 인상 때문에 올린다고 하는데, 원래 작년부터 저희가 코로나 때 풀었던 돈을 다시 회수하기 위해서 여러 가지 그 회수 정책을 쓰려고 했었어요. 근데 갑자기 이제 물가 전쟁도 터지고 이러니까 물가 인상률이 너무 기하급수적으로 확 올라가서 그 충격이 훨씬 더 지금 크죠. 그리고 전쟁은 끝날 생각을 안 하고요. 네, 그렇네요. 일단 운동을 하도록 하겠습니다. 역시 운동을 할 땐 CNN이죠. 이거 아니라 화분에 물이 너무 멈춰서
Kumho Tire. Air quality update in association with Copernicus, Europe's eyes on Earth. Air quality update in association with Copernicus, Europe's eyes on Earth.
What do you see when you look at the surface? Just that, the surface. But dive deeper and new possibilities emerge. Essential intelligence from S&P Global takes you here, providing the data, risk assessment, and workflow solutions you need to plumb the wonders beneath. A better, more prosperous future awaits. It's yours for the seeking. S&P Global. Seek and prosper.
에쉬! 에쉬!
We share this place. We all belong.
on Wednesday, the District of Columbia renamed part of the street in front of the Embassy of Saudi Arabia. It's now called Jamal Khashoggi Way. Khashoggi was the Saudi journalist whose murder, U.S. intelligence says, was sanctioned by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Biden condemned the journalist's murder, vowed to make Saudi Arabia a pariah nation, and even refused to speak with MBS on the phone. But next month, President Biden will meet with him in Jeddah as part of what senior administration officials say is a reset in relations. To find out what's behind the about face, let me bring in Tariq Masood, a professor at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government. Tariq, first, let's just talk about the country that Biden is going to visit, because everything I have heard tells me that Saudi Arabia in the last few years has really experienced a kind of revolution.
I think that's exactly right, Fareed. I mean, if I were to summarize the state of Saudi Arabia today, I'd say it is a country that's undergoing one of the most dramatic transformations that we've seen any country go through in living memory. It's transforming from a place that was really, at least had its social life in the grip of a kind of 13th century religious reaction to joining the modern world. The problem, of course, is that very positive transformation is happening at the hands of a leader who is kind of an Arab autocrat out of central casting.
So one of the reasons this trip was so hard for Biden is that he faced criticism. He himself had expressed some of it about the Saudi regime, not just on the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, but also more generally the autocracy of Mohammed bin Salman. Is this just a case that economic interests are trumping human rights? How to think about America's relationship with Saudi Arabia in that context?
Yeah, certainly, Fareed, a lot of people feel that what's happening now by President Biden visiting Saudi Arabia and seeming to let bygones be bygones is that Mohammed bin Salman is being allowed to quite literally get away with murder. I think that what President Biden is coming around to is the fact that we have a lot of interests in this part of the world, and the solution to a lot of the problems that we seek to solve, the roads run through Riyadh, or at least they have a stop in Riyadh. If you want to combat, Iranian adventurism in the region, if you want to break the Palestinian-Israeli impasse, if you want to end the tragic bloodshed in Yemen, all of these roads have a stop in Saudi Arabia. And you could potentially skip that stop sometimes, but you couldn't do it without making life a lot more difficult for yourself. In addition, remember, Fareed, let's come back to the fact that Saudi Arabia is really undergoing this transformation. It's a positive transformation. It's one that we've wanted to see in that part of the world for a long time, and it has ripple effects elsewhere in the Muslim world. The fact that Saudi Arabia is no longer exporting that particular brand of Islam that we found so troublesome is a very positive development. So you want to encourage that. And when I think of the U.S.-Saudi relationship, I think of this line from an early Arab leader who said, the relationship between me and my people is like a thread. I hold one end, my people hold the other. Now, when they tug on the thread, I loosen it a little bit. When they loosen their grip on the thread, I tighten. But above all, I don't let the thread break. And I think that's a pretty good metaphor for how our relationship with Saudi Arabia should be conducted.
Now, we know what Biden wants from MBS. He wants Saudi Arabia to pump more gas, more oil to get prices down. My question is, what does Saudi Arabia want? Because, presumably there is something that the Saudis feel they need to get from the U.S.
Well, remember that Saudi Arabia has been treated by this administration, or they've at least felt treated by this administration, as if they are, in fact, what President Biden labeled them on the campaign trail, pariah. What Saudis are also very concerned with is the fact that the United States seems to be running headlong into trying to restart a relationship with Iran, which the Saudis see as the major miscreant in their region. So I think the Saudis would definitely like the reset to involve the United States being much more committed to limiting Iranian ambitions in the region. But I think basically the Saudis want as much of a reset with this relationship as the Americans do, and they want the U.S. to talk about Saudi Arabia as an ally and to deepen the ties with that country.
And finally, can the Saudis deliver on what Biden wants? Can they pump out more oil? They are what is often called the largest swing producer in the world. They have the capacity to increase production.
Certainly, President Biden has access to much better economic advisors than I do, but the fact of the matter is that there are a lot of reasons why oil prices are high right now, one of which is the tightening supply as a result of the war in Ukraine. But let's remember, the International Energy Agency says that Russian oil production is going to decline by 3 million barrels a day by July. Saudi Arabia's excess capacity is about a third of that. So every little bit helps, of course, but I'm not sure the entirety of the solution to the high oil price problem lies in Riyadh. And I'm sure that President Biden wants more from this visit to Saudi Arabia than just more Saudi oil production. There's a lot of issues on which the United States needs and wants Saudi Arabian cooperation. And so I think President Biden will want to come out of this visit with much more than just a commitment to pump some more oil.
Tariq Masood, pleasure to have you on as always.
Thank you, Fareed.
Next on GPS, we'll look at two nations. At one time, they were both great symbols of how diversity might thrive in democracy. Now, both are riding down dangerous roads of illiberalism.
Almost all carbon emissions come from industries that shape our world. But at Standard Chartered, we believe progress doesn't have to cost our planet. That's why we're mobilizing $300 billion to help our clients change the way they operate, accelerating the transition to a net zero world. Because where others see problems, we see potential. We're Standard Chartered, and we're here for good.
What do you see when you look at the surface? Just that, the surface. But dive deeper and new possibilities emerge. Essential intelligence from S&P Global takes you here, providing the data, risk assessment, and workflow solutions you need to plumb the wonders beneath. A better, more prosperous future awaits. It's yours for the seeking. S&P Global. Seek and prosper.
The ever-changing weather around the world. Ever-diverse terrain and roads across the world. With Kumho Tire that has conquered all. There is no road you cannot go. Go with Kumho. Kumho Tire.
It is actually very complicated to move money around the world. Few companies can do it at scale. Few companies can do it in the number of countries that we do it. And so these companies that come together like MoneyGrams and like our competitors do really provide a very unique service, and that is to instantly move money, get funds from the United States to Mexico, literally in sub-seconds. For the ability to take $350 that you worked hard to earn and get it back to your mother so that she can pick it up in Mexico, use it for food, healthcare, housing, is actually a very unique service. If you're from many of the countries, Mexico, Philippines, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, some of the largest received markets in the world, it's absolutely critical to the lives of the consumers in those countries. But many people don't appreciate that. If it's not the life that you live, then it's not something that you really ever really get involved in.
Sex trafficking is happening in all hotels, in all brands, at all levels. My name is Lori Cohen. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of ECPAT USA in Brooklyn, New York. In our research, we recognize that so much of the child sex trafficking was happening in hotels because these were anonymous locations and traffickers felt that there was very low risk in being detected. In February of 2020, ECPAT USA partnered with Marriott International and with the American Hotel and Lodging Association to launch a free online training for people working in the hotel and hospitality industry. It was just before the pandemic, and we thought the timing was going to be terrible. But when we counted the numbers, 15 months into the pandemic, we were stunned to see that over 500,000 members of the hotel industry had taken the online training. And so, even though it's an uncomfortable topic, there's a recognition that it's absolutely essential to protect children. It's the right thing to do, and it's also good for their bottom line.
I'm Patrick Ubben in Havana, Cuba, and this is CNN.
And now for the last look. When one looks at the strengths and vibrancies of democracies around the world, among the most promising trends in recent decades have been two unusual success stories, India and South Africa. Both have managed to forge diverse democracies despite huge obstacles. For India, it's widespread poverty. For South Africa, the horrible legacy of apartheid. Both countries have managed to do this through the leadership of towering founding fathers like Nelson Mandela and Jawaharlal Nehru, men who inspired admiration not just in their own countries, but all over the world. So it's been startling and disappointing to see in both countries a rising degree of illiberalism. In South Africa, political parties have begun to ramp up rhetoric against migrants, blaming them for everything from the country's widespread unemployment to crime. Whether the politicians are igniting these attitudes or reflecting them is unclear, but xenophobia is clearly on the rise. As The Economist notes, vigilante groups like Operation Dudula or Pushback in Zulu march on townships, demonstrating against illegal immigration. These kinds of marches have led to violent attacks in the past. A Zimbabwean migrant was burned alive by a mob when he was unable to produce documents proving his legal status in the country. As The Economist notes, more than 120,000 people have been displaced and more than 600 have been killed in violent attacks on migrants since 1994, and most have occurred in the past 10 years. Nearly half of South Africans polled in 2020 said they found migrants dishonest and violent. Another poll from 2021 found that 3% said they had committed violence against migrants, and an astounding 12% said they might do so. Even the government of Cyril Ramaphosa, which has so far avoided scapegoating migrants, appears nonetheless to be bending to anti-migrant sentiment through policy. In November, it decided to end the Zimbabwean exemption permit, which allowed almost 200,000 migrants to settle in South Africa over the past decade. The program will expire at the end of the year. And then there is India, where the social divide manipulated by opportunistic politicians centers not on migration, but religion. Thousands of Indians came out in protest last week over derogatory comments made about the Prophet Muhammad by two senior officials in Narendra Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party. Muslims in Modi's India have long faced vigilante violence from mobs, often provoked by the divisive rhetoric of BJP politicians, as organizations like Human Rights Watch have noted in the past. But rarely do officials so plainly utter discriminatory remarks. As The Economist reports, after an outcry from rich, oil-producing Gulf countries, Nupur Sharma, the national spokesperson who made her comments in a primetime television debate, was suspended from the party. Another spokesperson, Naveen Jindal, who made his comments on social media, was expelled from the party. But that didn't satisfy many Indians who came out on the streets demanding that Sharma and Jindal be arrested. Videos have circulated on social media of violent unrest, including some of protesters being beaten by police with sticks. And most shocking of all, authorities in the state of Uttar Pradesh have bulldozed the homes of Muslim activists suspected of participating in the protests. One official in the state tweeted a photo of a demolition last Saturday, which took place after Friday protests and wrote, "Unruly elements remember, every Friday is followed by a Saturday." It appeared to be a real reference to Islam's Friday prayers. Amnesty International said in a statement released Tuesday that the government of India is selectively and viciously cracking down on Muslims who dare to speak up and peacefully express their dissent against discrimination. This latest episode is sadly not an aberration. According to Human Rights Watch, discrimination against religious minorities has been codified and violent Hindu nationalism enabled under 2 consecutive terms of the Modi regime. What we're seeing in both India and South Africa is politicians choosing to scapegoat and divide rather than unify. We've seen that elsewhere, but it's all the more tragic in 2 countries that have for so long refuted the idea that democracy is for the rich or that a bleak history cannot be overcome. It's a sad reminder that we are living in troubled times for democracy. Thanks to all of you for being part of my program this week. I will see you next week.
What do you see when you look at the surface? Just that, the surface. But dive deeper and new possibilities emerge. Essential Intelligence from S&P Global takes you here, providing the data, risk assessment, and workflow solutions you need to plumb the wonders beneath. A better, more prosperous future awaits. It's yours for the seeking. S&P Global. Seek and prosper.
I'm David Colbert in Beijing, and this is CNN.
This is CNN. More people get their news from CNN than any other news source.
Living Golf, in association with Gulf Saudi. After more than 2 years of border closures due to the pandemic, countries in Southeast Asia are opening back up. From Thailand to Vietnam, a host of unique golf courses are on offer.
The speed at which golf is developing in this country is phenomenal.
And young homegrown talents making golf history.
I think the thing with Thai golfers is that we're very fortunate.
The region is betting big on golf as a
여기까지
symbol of
하겠습니다.
development and a rising middle class.
There's no gender, no age, no limitation in golf. Everyone can play together.